Well,
I
we're
I
live.
couldn't get through my computer. You know what I'm
We're
saying? For some
live.
reason, I don't know. So,
We're live. Technology happens.
all
I
right.
want to thank everyone for their patience. This is just one of those wacky days where technology doesn't always work out as planned.
Right.
But despite that, I don't want to diminish how amazing the documentary is, and I do want to take some time to, have this conversation as well. So I hope everyone enjoyed the documentary. It's going to have just a little bit of conversation. Um, Chris, the filmmaker, and so yeah. So I want to first really start
All right.
with I want to start off with inspiration for doing the documentary. Like where did that come from?
Well, the inspiration for doing it just really came from just my love of just loving our history and our culture. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, I'm originally from Laurinburg, North Carolina. Born and raised. It's a little
Okay.
small rural town um, in North Carolina. It's about an hour and a half from Wilmington, actually. But I grew up right around the corner from a historic black boarding and day school called the Laurinburg Institute. A lot of people who are into basketball and sports from New York, very familiar with the Laurinburg Institute. They had a top-notch basketball program for years. But also, folks like Dizzy Gillespie went to school there back in the 1930s. My grandfather went to school there. And so, I was always kind of around that type of stuff, you know what I'm saying, of growing up and learning about our history and our culture. So that's what really led me to do this, you know what I'm saying? And when I wanted to
Mhm.
start making my own films, I remembered the story about 1898 and the massacre and saw that no one actually did a documentary on it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to do it. Because I kept seeing, and you see this a lot in the literary world as well. You have all these folks that don't look like us telling our stories. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whether it's writing books or, doing documentaries. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative and I'm going to do something. I'm going to stop complaining and I'm going to start doing something about it.
Amazing. And I'm glad you did because for a lot of us, many of us didn't know this was history, right? I think like
Right.
Rosewood is probably the first film that, it wasn't a documentary, but it was a film about mob, but other than that, you really haven't seen many other films really capture some of the tragedies beyond slavery and Jim Crow. We don't really hear about these stories, and so I think it's really we're able to bring it to light. And what I really appreciate the most, that it wasn't really a Rosewood. It didn't really focus on the gory details. It's really more of the history part. Was that intentional? As far as like making sure to show anything too triggering, but telling the history.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I wanted to tell the history of what happened. Our people were killed during this massacre, so you can't run away from that. But I didn't want that to be the whole story. I wanted to show what we accomplished in Wilmington. Coming out of slavery. What we accomplished economically, politically, and socially in Wilmington during this era. And so those were the things that I was trying to do. I still wanted to give people hard hitting facts and information and also back it up with documentation and also talk about, the massacre in general. I didn't want to just show a whole bunch of things about people getting killed and run down the streets the whole time because it's more than that. This was a thing about African Americans doing their thing in a time when it was unheard of. And I really wanted people to know that part of the accomplishments of our people in that city, and also what the city could have become if this massacre never happened.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's so true. And it makes me think about so many other stories we sort of hear about in other cities. Like there are Wilmington on fire stories in so many different cities. Have you thought expanding? I know right now you're working on the number two, but
Right.
have you thought about expanding to other cities as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're thinking about it. I thought about trying to do something maybe on the Red Summer. Also, we're working on a spinoff project. Not only Wilmington on Fire Chapter 2, but there was a town that was created in New Jersey after the massacre as well. It was really a safe haven for folks leaving Wilmington when they went north. And this town is still in New Jersey to this day. So we're thinking about doing a spinoff type of project right after chapter
Okay.
2, because those are stories that are kind of connected to Wilmington. There's several of
Hmm.
those type of stories of what happened to those folks that left Wilmington. After the massacres, did they start other communities? Did they go to other cities and towns? What happened to them? And those are some of the other stories I want to tell right after telling the full spectrum of Wilmington, is telling those other stories of after the massacre. What's next. But there are other stories about different events like this. I definitely would like to tell. I can't tell all of them, but if someone's out there that's doing
Right.
something on it, I would love to get involved and show my support with that as well.
Yeah, and I really want to get back to where you were mentioning earlier about sort of, hey, I'll do it. Talk about the process of the history and finding the very knowledgeable people. I mean, the people who are in your documentary, they have so much history. The one guy with the documents and going digging in, like, how'd you find this man?
Well, the first person I reached out to that I found was my man Larry Thomas, who was in the film. He's the guy at the end of the film that's doing the
Hmm.
poem.
Right.
He's known in Wilmington as Mr. 1898. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been on this topic for years. He was on this topic before it became a popular topic to even talk about. He's written
Hmm.
several books about the subject. He's interviewed folks, and he actually had started his own organization that actually seeked out direct descendants of the victims of the massacre.
Hmm.
And also, his organization is working hard to get reparations for those descendants as well. And so
How
he
is
was the
that
first
coming
person.
along? Into that.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Last year they did the whole congressional hearing on reparations in Washington D.C. And Wilmington on Fire was a part of that. It was featured in the conversation somewhat. So that's really all the traction we've had so far with that. And
Okay.
now, no one's talking about reparations anymore in the political climate now.
No,
So that is,
unfortunately.
yeah. So reparations not even talked about right now, but hopefully, with the work we're continuously doing, it'll come back on the table. But he was the
Right.
first person I reached out to, and he led me down the path to meeting folks like Kent and Dr. Manley and others. And then I reached out to a few folks like Dr. Umar Johnson, Lorraine Youngfleet, who actually wrote the state report, and also Sandy Darity as well. And so, really, Larry was the first person that I reached out to, and he kind of helped me choose and say, man, you need to reach out to this person, that person, because he's been knowing all of these people for years. Like I said, Larry has been on this topic since the 1970s, pushing this issue. So really, without him, I wouldn't even been able to put this thing together.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And for those who are maybe even thinking about doing their own documentary, talk about the process in creating a historical documentary. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of information that you can put in because you only have so much time,
Yeah,
right? So that's probably why you are doing the part two. So talk about the
right.
process of sort of framing the story to flow well, finding the right players, getting the right documentation in place, and choosing kind of what stays in and what stays out.
Well, I think the first thing I did was, I got quite a few books on documentaries. And so I started reading books on just documentary structure, how to write a grant proposal, all type of stuff, budgeting, the whole nine. And then I just started looking at a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos of people talking about that same question you just asked me. What's your process like? So I was just listening to what they were talking about, and then also, it's all about trial and error as well. At the end of the day, you can learn all this stuff, read all the books, but at the end of the day, you just got to go out and do it and learn from your mistakes. And that's what we really did. I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of people that had a lot more experience than I did, and that helped me, a whole lot. But we made mistakes, even with all that. So the best way to do it is just to do it, and just learn from your mistakes and just get better. And that's what we're doing with the second go around with my other projects. We've learned from the first one, and now we're not making anybody, learn as much as you can, but you can't just keep using it as an excuse not to get it going. You got to get it going. And also, camera doesn't matter at all. A lot of people get caught up with the camera work and all of that. No, you can do some quality stuff just on your cell phone. Just
Mm-hmm.
make sure your sound is right and tight. And yeah, so I would say just shoot it. Get you a good team of people who believe in the story that you're trying to tell. But that's going to go a long way. Those are the folks that are going to support you. They're not doing it for the money, because coming into these type of film projects, they know that you don't have a lot of money. You're not a
Mm-hmm.
big production studio, so they know that you're trying to just tell a story and do a quality project. And so get you some folks that you know that's going to rock with that and believe in that. That's one thing that
Right.
I did and had. And also get you some people that have experience that can kind of godfather and mentor you. And I was luckily, had some folks to do that for me in this project. My man Pete Chapman, who's a Hollywood TV director, he came on board to executive produce the project. Also, Tariq Nasheed, he was a big help. You know what I'm saying? From the man that did all the Hidden Colors in 1804.
Mm-hmm.
He came on board to help me out, and I was able to tap into his audience with Hidden Colors. Hidden Colors inspired me a lot and gave me the confidence to even pursue this type of thing. So, being able to tap into him and get his expertise, and also him to help push the brand of Wilmington on Fire out there, helped a lot. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I always tell people, do the film, study it, do it, learn from your mistakes, but also see if you can get other people who got experience and that you can really learn from and study from and just grow as a filmmaker.
Great. We have a question from Facebook. Hi, Chris. Great documentary. I'm a great grandson of Alexander Manley. Do you think you could put me in contact with some of your historical experts? Have a lot
Yeah.
of people reach out to you as far as like wanting to learn more, or they have family members who were maybe victims or survivors of Wilmington on Fire?
Oh yeah, definitely. And to the person with the question, tell them to hit me up. Hit me up on Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook, Christopher Everett. I would love to chat with them. But yeah, ever since we put out the film, folks have talked about being descendants and are descendants. You got to realize that this type of history was really hidden for a long time. A lot of folks didn't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And so I know one brother had came out and talked about he was a descendant. We had did a screening in Goldsboro, North Carolina, some years ago. He was an older gentleman. I think he was about in his 90s, and he
Mm-hmm.
came to the screening. And I think his grandparents survived the massacre. They were kids at the time, and he said they never told him to talk about it. What I'm saying? Then his
Mm-hmm.
parents never told him to talk about it. But he said, watching the film and being around everyone and how everyone was just, supportive as well. He finally was able to talk about it, and talk about those stories that he heard passed down, from his grandparents. And so I think that's really what the film has done. And that's what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to bring more descendants to the table and come forth with their stories and their documentation and their photos, all of this stuff. All of this stuff needs to be brought to the light and to really highlight not only the massacre, but who we were as a people before the massacre as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting, watching the documentary and some of the things that were talked about then is kind of happening now, like propaganda, using propaganda to sort of taint people's mindsets, things like that. While when you're working on the film, we're thinking like, wow, yeah, things have progressed, but there also further we still have to go.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. For in Wilmington, for example, um, there's so much more left, and that's why I wanted to do a part two. Not only just showing what's needed, what's still left for Wilmington, but also as a country, this country as a whole. But for Wilmington per se, the reason why I want to do a follow up is to show, um, folks trying to do something to bring Wilmington back to that spirit of 1897. You know what I'm saying? Of
Mm-hmm.
before the massacre, when you had black people doing their thing in politics, in the business arena, all of that. And you have some folks that are trying to do their thing, recently. that are really trying to bring Wilmington back to that era. And I felt like that was definitely a thing that should be highlighted for the second part of this film. But also, just as a country as a whole, just with this past election and what's I guess trying to happen, we still got a long way to go. Still got a long way to go. But the thing is that I think films like Wilmington on Fire and others that are out there, that not only just for us to watch and enjoy and learn something, but also we got to learn from our mistakes as well. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the key thing when I look at history is about learning from our mistakes so we don't do the same thing again. Now we see what happened in 1898 and all these other places. We didn't have our weaponry in order. That was one thing. So now we need, you know what I'm saying? It's just the basic. Just we need to learn. You know what I'm saying? So now we see the BS that's happening. Let's get our weaponry in order. You know what I'm saying? And also just
Yeah.
start supporting our media. You know what I'm saying? So like
Mhm.
Quelle TV and other media outlets, black media outlets, we need to support them and help them
Yeah.
grow as well. So those are the things we have to do, and we've done them before. But again, we can't just get comfortable because, we're doing a little something. We always have to
Mhm.
be ready and on alert, but that comes with just not just staying alert and looking out for something. We also have to be proactive as well by supporting our businesses, growing our businesses, and taking care of our families, and also, protecting, ourselves in general, just bearing arms as well at the same time. So I think, we have to do all those things to be prepared to what could possibly happen in the future.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And also, as you mentioned, making sure we're preserving our stories because, like you were saying, having you as a filmmaker, Tariq, another one, others who have created these amazing documentaries. If it weren't for your film and others, people wouldn't even know this history existed. And so, when you talk to up and coming filmmakers about wanting to walk in your shoes, and I'm really amazed too because this is like your first documentary, right?
Yeah, it's my first joint.
Yeah.
I
It was
actually did.
award
I actually
winning.
did one. I did one before this one, but I messed it up totally. So this is actually my second.
Hey, I did. Hey, my first one. I feel you on that. um, but it shows like bringing the right people on board, really taking your time with the storyline, all those things to make it a masterpiece. Like it's such an amazing. It's such an amazing film, and you should be really proud that it was your real like first feature documentary, and how well it turned out. Are you showing this in schools and others? And what reaction, especially to young kids?
Oh, we've been showing it all over. November 15th will be 5 years since the film has been out, doing festivals, screenings, all of that. And we've shown this thing all over the globe, especially all over the country.
Hmm.
We've shown it in schools. Again, schools are the toughest thing to do because of it's just a lot of politics and stuff with that.
Right.
So we've been lucky enough to have teachers, watch events like what we're doing now and come to live screenings before the pandemic happened. That they would come and take the initiative to come and check it out, and then also just tell their principals like, "Hey, I went to check out this film. I want to start teaching this in my class." And some
Hmm.
principals have empowered their teachers to do that, and we've been
Good.
invited over the years to present, and do screenings in the classes. And I know a couple of schools we do it like we were doing it every February until the pandemic happened, and we would come to the class and do it for all the eighth grade students because the teachers would prep them throughout the year, throughout the semester
Hmm.
about 1898 and stuff like that. So when we would bring the film, they know what's going on, and we usually have a great turnout. The kids are engaged, and a lot of them, haven't even thought about doing documentary or film at all. And then they see, a young black person like myself doing it, and a lot of them want to do it and want to know questions of how they can get into it as well, and start telling their own stories. You know what I'm saying? So the feedback has been great all over the board. You know what I'm saying? We've had certain celebrities get involved and shout out the film, and like I said, folks like Tariq, they've always been supportive. So I never thought none of this was possible. When I first started making this project, I just thought that I'm from Laurinburg, North Carolina, No one cares, you know. So I'm just going to do this film, and just whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and life changing. Talk about the funding. You mentioned briefly about sort of writing grants, raising money. For a lot of new filmmakers, sometimes it's hard to raise money because people, before they give, want to see your other work, they want to see your background, and if you don't really have the experience, it makes it much harder to get those dollars to create your film. So talk about the process of fundraising, how much money we're able to raise, and how we're able to make this documentary with the resources that you had.
Well, you know, it was hard to raise money. It's easy to raise money now because I've done my first film. But when you're making your first film, it's
Right.
tough because no one really believes in you. You don't have anything to show. You know what I'm saying? So you haven't really proven yourself, so to speak. And I kind of knew that going in. And so what I did was just use my savings. I saved money. I had some unemployment coming in, and I just used that and moved
Mm-hmm.
back. Moved. I was actually living in Atlanta, and the place where I
Okay.
was working at closed down, and I had to move back to North Carolina. So I convinced my grandparents to let me stay with them for rent free, so I could finish the film. And so I just used all my money that I had, put everything I had in the film, and we just made it happen. And did a couple of crowdfunding campaigns, and that's when I met, you know, Tariq. He put some money on the crowdfunding campaign. Said, "Man, I like what you're doing." He
Nice.
started rocking the Wilmington on Fire shirt on his live stream channel. So I was able to get, you know, start building that audience up. And then once we shot everything, I needed money for post production. And then out the blue, an NBA player reached out, David West. He's a retired NBA
Yes.
player right now. He did his last 2 seasons with the Golden State Warriors in their championship run. But David West reached
Mm-hmm.
out and he heard about the film. He was following the film for a couple of years, and he wanted to actually get a DVD of the film. But I said, man, the film's not done yet, you know, but when it's done, I'll let you know. And he said, man, well, how much you need to get this thing done? You know, I would love to partner with you to put this thing out. And so I told him the amount, and he said, yo, let's make it happen. And that's how we did it.
Wow,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
you never know who's watching. You know, like I said, he was following the film for like two
Mm-hmm.
years, and he just happened to reach out, saying, you know, asking about a DVD because you know he knows I'm just an independent filmmaker. You know, probably not going to see like a big release of the project, so he just reached out, wanted to get the copy of the film. You know, wondering if it was out or not. And I said, nah, but he said, man, well, let's make something happen because I really want this film to get out there. I think it's an important story about our history and culture that needs to be told, and you're right there close to the finish line, you know, so let me help you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, cross that finish line. And he did. And, you know, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like when you put yourself out there, right? You just never
Right.
know what type of opportunity you
Right.
get. So anyone who's watching, they're on the fence about film, but like anything in life, right? If
Right.
it's meant for you, the right people will come along and help you reach the finish. That's a really amazing story.
Right. Yeah. You got to be, you know,
So if you
also, you
want
know,
to
you
talk
just
a
got to
little
be
bit
ready.
about yeah, yeah, you gotta be ready. That's true. Can finish your thought. I think I'll ask you something else,
Oh,
but can see what you were saying.
Oh no, I'm just saying that you know, again, you know, you got to put yourself out there, but also when you put yourself out there, you can't just be, you know, half-assing it neither. You got to make sure when you put your stuff out there, you got to be ready because if the opportunity comes, that might be your only shot. You know what I'm saying? And you got
Right.
to make it worthwhile because that might be your only shot. You'll probably get another shot, but you don't know how long that other shot is going to come. You know, it could, you know, it could
Right.
take you 5 more years to get that type of opportunity again. So when you're ready to get out there and really put your stuff out there, you might need some help. Just make sure you got everything in order. And when that opportunity
Hmm.
comes, it's going to work out for you.
Yeah, it makes them at like 10,000 hours, the thing that people talk about where the time it takes to sort of perfect what you're doing. Like you did your first documentary, it wasn't exactly how to be, but then when you did this one, everything
Right.
was in place. You kind of learned more, you knew more, you did your you read, and it was done at a point was so done so well that people wanted to help, people wanted to fundraise for you and give you the resources that you needed. So that really goes to show you, like, yeah, if you take the time and put effort into something that you think is good and you do a really good job at it, it may take a while, but
Yeah.
you get the resources and you need. So that's definitely A really great inspirational story for anyone who is considering, even doing their own documentary. But I do want to talk about your new one. I want to talk a little bit more about that one. How far along are you with Wilmington on Fire 2? You mentioned sort of kind of talking about what's happening now. I know you went to some Trump events and things like that to sort of talk about sort of how it's connected to today. And then, without giving too much away, talk about sort of, what will be the overall theme of Wilmington on Fire 2.
Well, Wilmington on Fire 2, the overall theme is about um, the city's resiliency, of finally overcoming 1898. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's really about. And it's really from the black perspective, black folks in Wilmington saying, what, enough is enough. We're going to do something about this. We're going to do something. We're going to stand up. So some of the characters that we've been following, one young lady, she's been leading a lot of the protest movements in Wilmington. We have we have a brother and a sister, a married couple. They just opened a black-owned co-working space in downtown Wilmington. They're trying to bring
Oh, nice.
black entrepreneurship spirit back to Wilmington. We've been following them. Another lady, she's been really pushing for home ownership in the black community. I think since 2016, she's done put 80 black families into homes. You know what I'm saying? She's doing an amazing job of that, about rebuilding that type of home ownership in the city of Wilmington. And then also Larry's coming back and really just showing his continuous fight for reparations as well. And so it's going to be an amazing project. I think it really makes the story complete. With the first one is all history. Now, we get to really look back at the history, learn from our mistakes, and see how we can go forward, as a community, and really use this film to show what we need to do as black folks across the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Of really taking back our communities and taking back our legacy, as well. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully we'll be done with it to be able to start screening November 2021. We've already got some celebrity involvement. Hillary Burton Morgan from One Tree Hill. They used to film that show back in the day in Wilmington. She's been very supportive, huge supporter of the project. She wanted to get involved with it. And we got some other people as well in the works that want to be involved. But we've stepped our game up as well, production wise. You know what I'm saying? We stepped up the camera work. The sound is top notch. The camera quality is top notch. So I'm excited. Like I said, you learn from your past mistakes. So we've grown a lot over the past 5 years as filmmakers, and so we're very excited about this new film and this new chapter
Right.
of the Wilmington on Fire story.
Amazing. I have another question. Hi, Chris. Can you share some of the details/stories of people making things happen today to overcome 1898?
Yeah. Well, like I was just saying, you got quite a few people that are doing some things. Again, you have a couple in Wilmington right now, black couple. They just launched a black co-working space downtown Wilmington, the first ever in the city, and it's called Genesis Block. They're actually having their grand opening next Thursday. We're going to be there to film that, and they're trying to
Nice.
really create more black businesses, more black entrepreneurs in the city, and getting black folks also more involved in the tech world as well. And so we want to show that. So
Mhm.
that's an example right there. You got the one sister that's doing her thing with getting black folks into homes and home ownership. She's doing a lot with that in the city of Wilmington. You also have my man Larry Thomas, who's doing his thing with the fight for reparations. You also have this young brother named Cedric Harrison. He's actually starting a Black History tour in Wilmington. So we've been documenting his process of getting his tour bus
Mhm.
together, fixing it up. He's getting that thing ready. And he really wants to use this tour to really start educating folks and really start bringing that tourism back to the city of Wilmington. You know what I'm saying? And so black folks can actually start getting a piece of that tourism economy,
Right.
that's in Wilmington as
Mhm.
well. So it's all about that. It's all about really, changing the spectrum for African Americans in Wilmington. And like I said, really reclaiming their legacy. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like a renaissance is happening right now in Wilmington, in a
It
way.
is. It is.
Great. So I know since we started late, we'll probably wrap it up. If there are anything like lasting comments or thoughts, especially with the new film coming up, or any ways in which people can, if they want to support you, so to help finish the documentary.
Yeah. Well, just just continue to watch the film on Quelle TV. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing you can do. Let people know. People out there that's tuning in now. Let all your friends, family, and associates know. Check out Wilmington on Fire on Quelle TV. That's one thing. You can also check us out at WilmingtonOnFire.com. All information about part 2 and part 1 is on there. And there's different ways you can support. You can reach out to me directly on the website and just let people know. Just let people know about the film. You know what I'm saying? And just share it with as many people as you can. Like watch it on Quelle TV, watch it on Amazon Prime, buy a DVD. All of those things help. You know what I'm saying? It help the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps, me grow as well, because you never know, you sharing this, you never know who is out there that's looking at your page or your social media. You know what I'm saying? That's how I was able to get connected with a lot of folks over the years, because of people sharing it,
Mm-hmm.
on their social media platforms, just letting people know. So just doing small things like that, even if you can't give me like $10,000 or something, just sharing it or supporting the film in some type of way, really goes a long way for me.
Right. That's a, yeah. And like filmmakers, because we're the ones telling the stories. We're the ones telling stories that we don't see in the history books. We didn't learn in school. On Fire. 1898. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about Tulsa until later
Right.
on in life. Truth be told, I learned about like Emmett Till when I was 10 years old, reading Jet magazine. Like that's how I learned about Emmett Till. Not in school. It was Jet magazine. So again, Black media, and so that's why Black media, Black filmmakers, Black creatives are so important. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and allowing us to watch your amazing.
No, thank you for creating Quelle TV, and giving folks like myself the opportunity to have this type of stage on a platform like this. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Well, we'll be doing this every month. Have technical issues next time. Hopefully, we'll have them resolved. But but this has been amazing. I'm the founder of Kuli TV. Thank you so much for watching Wilmington on Fire, and then also watching our Q&A with the award-winning filmmaker Christopher Everett. Until next time, peace, everybody.
Right.